Hello everyone! Last year I had a special video going over my Batman memories, and this year I wanted to do something special again, but this time sharing my Superman memories. My memories of being a Superman fan my entire life so far. Before I continue, get some drinks, get a snack, and comment down below your memories of the Man of Steel. What entertained you? What was the first thing Superman you ever saw? How did you become a fan? Comment down below. I hope we have a civil discussion. On that note, here we go. Superman is an iconic character. He's the ultimate superhero. And you know, I'm much more of a Batman fan. That is no secret, but Superman I actually was familiar with at a young age. I didn't really become an ultra fan like I am with Batman and Spider-Man until my teenage years. To say the least, I think my first memory of Superman was with my mother. We had HBO, and it was with her that I saw Superman the movie and Superman 2 playing on HBO as a theatrical cut. The Richard Donner cut did not come out yet. And that was such a cool film, seeing Superman's origin, his powers, the relationship with Lois, the duality of Clark Kent as Superman, Gene Hackman as Lex Luthor. But then Superman 2 was a bigger deal because he was fighting 3 other Kryptonians. If one Superman wasn't powerful enough, he's fighting 3 of them. I love the fights and visual effects, and it's crazy because like back then the effects looked pretty good, to say the least. Like they weren't quite as dated as they are now, but they still hold up after almost 40 years. That was pretty much my first memory of Superman. And the first comic I got was actually from the Man of Steel arc in the 90s. It was an issue where Superman had to go to Smallville and save these kids from a tornado. That was such an iconic issue. I wish I had it. I saw it at a grocery store. That's right, before you had to go to comic book stores or Comixology or just order online, you could actually find new comic books in the magazine aisle at the grocery store. But the one that really entertained me and the Superman that I grew up with, outside of Christopher Reeve, had to be Dean Cain and Terry Hatcher in Lois and Clark, The New Adventures of Superman. My mom and I would always watch that show. It was originally on ABC, but we were actually watching reruns on TNT in the late 90s to early 2000s. That was like the first time that I was like watching Superman. And around the same era, we also had the Kids WB, and I remember seeing Tim Daly's Superman.
What are you watching?
Superman fighting Brainiac?
Could you turn it down?
Cool new Superman toys are now at Burger King. You can get one with every kid's club meal.
Well, what have we here?
Whoa.
I was a huge fan of the Batman animated series, and of course it was cool seeing the Man of Steel in this universe and the crossovers it would have. I remember World's Finest being shown in a movie on VHS with Superman Batman movie.
If one superhero is good,
Don't keep us in suspense.
then 2 superheroes must be better.
Think about it.
It's 2 times the action, 2 times the danger, and 2 times the excitement. The Batman-Superman movie.
It's over, Joker.
It hasn't begun, Soupy! This new DVD features extras like Get the Picture Batman and Superman, The Joker's Challenge Game, an introduction by producer-director Bruce Timm, a music video, and much more.
I'd say the timing couldn't be better.
Now on videocassette and DVD from Warner Brothers Family Entertainment.
You know, I didn't even know that was part of the animated series. I just thought that was like a regular animated movie. They would always like get episodes and put them together as a movie on VHS, and that was something else, seeing the Man of Steel and Dark Knight meet face to face for the first time. And you know, Lois and Clark lasted for 4 seasons. I love their chemistry. It was nice seeing Clark Kent. There's a great quote where he's just like,
I mean, you think it was easy for me sitting there and watch you swoon over Superman at the same time ignoring me?
That's ridiculous. You are Superman.
No. Lois, Superman is what I can do. Clark is who I am.
I love that from Dean Cain's portrayal of Clark Kent, and Terry Hatcher is the ultimate Lois Lane. She was strong, independent. She didn't have to go around saying it. She just was, you know, and then that was so cool seeing that. And I think the fact that the showrunner, at least the initial showrunner, was a woman and then didn't have much experience from the comic books, I think that created richer characters because you were mainly focused on Lois and Clark. And that's when I started being interested in not only Superman, but like the Clark Kent Lois persona, you know, that side of the story. And later on, I would watch some of the Max Fleischer 40s cartoons.
Remarkable physical strength, Superman fights a never-ending battle for truth and justice, disguised as a mild-mannered newspaper reporter, Clark Kent.
And you went through a time where like Superman was like on a Got Milk ad, there were Seinfeld commercials on American Express.
What? It's Lois. She's in trouble. Did you look through that building? Well, kind of. It's glass. Lois!
Superman, I've forgotten my wallet.
I can't carry money in this. I'm powerless. I'm not.
My hero.
You can do more with the American Express card.
There was kind of like a down period, and 2000 came along, and I have to mention this, Kryptonite by Three Doors Down.
If I go crazy, then will you still call me Superman? If I'm alive and well, will you be there holding my hand? I'll keep you by my side with my superhuman might, Kryptonite.
I don't care. That's like the ultimate Superman song, and it hasn't been in a Superman film or TV show. Seriously, if we're gonna have a young Superman, have that. If not, I'm gonna make a movie with Kryptonite by Three Doors Down and Superman. But after that, you had Smallville. It's funny, I'm a diehard fan of it now, but like I remember being like, why would I want to see Superman in high school? They kind of did that with Superboy in the 80s and 90s, but like, why would I want to see that? Is he going to meet Lois Lane? Like, he's not supposed to meet her till later and all this stuff. Well, then I was familiar with Lana. I was like, oh, okay. He wasn't wearing tights. It was grounded. It was almost like a Marvel version of Superman. And it kind of piqued my interest. It came at the right time, right after 9/11, and it was a time, like many other Marvel DC films, where we needed a hero. And Smallville was the perfect family drama. Did it go on too long? Possibly, but it was a great show, and there's a reason why it ran for 10 seasons. To say the least, I was familiar with the Red episode on season 2, where he had red kryptonite. I mean, that's the reason why my high school ring was like red. I actually did that on purpose. I was that much of a Smallville fan where I did that. And I didn't watch it religiously. Not yet. So a couple of years went by, and I was into Marvel and other stuff. I was still into Batman. But it was around season 4's finale and the season 5 premiere where I caught Smallville. I was feeling sick and asthmatic. I had band practice, but I was going through some really bad asthma around that time, and I ended up staying home after school, watched it. That is when I got into Smallville. It was in season 5. I have so many fond memories, and I don't know if it was just the timing of it, as far as me being in high school and relating to it more, or the fact that we're about to have the Superman Returns film there is a resurgence of Superman in a way. I remember being familiar with the Rosetta episode, which just aired almost 20 years ago. I remember Christopher Reeve being on there, and that was like a passing of the torch moment. Such an iconic moment. The show paid homage and love to the comics and everything that came before, you know. It was cool seeing the guest stars. Season 5 is where it started to feel like Superman, you know, year one, or Superman in training. And that's when I got into the show, and then I started reading more Superman comics. I actually got most of my Superman collection through a half-price bookstore. I'm not lying. We went to a half-price books, and it must have been like around May to June. You could tell it was the college season. Somebody sold a bunch of 90s Superman comics, so I got them for like $0.25 each. So like, yeah, for me and my limited amount of money back then in my teen years, that worked out. I also fell in love with the special edition of Superman. Superman the movie was one movie that I enjoyed, but like the original Star Wars, I found it to be incredibly boring when I was younger. And now as an adult, I absolutely love them. They might be the best of all the series. I'm not lying. Like, there's something about them that's aged like a fine wine. And I love the special edition version, all the changes. I had that on VHS, and they came out on DVD, and I used to always rent them. I didn't see Superman 3 yet. I saw it actually last. I saw Superman 4, The Quest for Peace on Stars or Encore. And I actually like that movie. It's underrated, but also it has some horrible effects to the point where, like, now I look at them and I'm like, oh, this is kind of embarrassing, and I feel bad. But there's a great story at the core of that about world peace and getting rid of nuclear arms. Christopher Reeve never misses a beat. He's at his finest in that.
I just wish you could all see the Earth the way that I see it. Because when you really look at it, it's just one world.
And then I saw Superman 3, and that was kind of like watching Batman Forever after the Tim Burton films. Richard Lester definitely took over more, but Richard Pryor was hilarious.
There's vodka in it now, buddy.
He made that film, and so did the synthetic kryptonite, or should I say, like, kind of like red kryptonite evil Superman.
I can give as good as I get. Yeah? All right. Come on, you come on!
Another thing that added to my Superman memories of fandom around that time was the Justice League and Justice League Unlimited cartoon. That was amazing seeing that premiere, seeing all these heroes together for the first time, seeing a cartoon that was almost like a drama but animated. It was great seeing an animated show that was in widescreen at the time. You only had like the Nintendo 64 video game, and then there was an Xbox Superman game, but I was a PlayStation baby, so I didn't have an Xbox, so I didn't get to play that. But after Smallville, quite some time, we had the announcement of a new Superman, and as Superman Returns, Brandon Routh wonderfully portrays and continues Christopher Reeve's legacy. This movie was slow. Was it a retread of the original film, much like Force Awakens was to A New Hope? Absolutely. But I love this film. It was great seeing the Donner verse come back on the big screen, seeing John Williams' score and hearing that on the opening credits. Bryan Singer did a wonderful job with this. And it's good, but I still wish he did X-Men 3 over this. Honestly, I really do. But I love this film. I would have loved to see Brandon Routh continue this. I love what they set up with Lois and him. And even though they kind of made him a bit of a bastard father, it was still cool that they were like exploring that. Kevin Spacey was so underrated as Lex Luthor. He should have been in it a lot more.
Anything familiar? See an old man's sick joke. Kryptonite.
Radioactive pieces of his homeworld. It's deadly to him.
Now fly.
My son, remember, you have great power.
And then you had the video game, which I actually liked more than the film, kind of like Spider-Man 3. You got to see more of Brandon Routh. The problem is that Brandon Routh, he did such a good job at playing Christopher Reeve, but he didn't get a chance to show his own portrayal of Superman. Like he was just like a caricature or like an impersonation of Christopher Reeve, but we didn't get to see how he held onto it on his own quite yet, or quite fully like we did in the video game or the Crisis on Infinite Earths crossover. And it's a bummer because I would have loved to see what his Man of Steel would have been fighting Brainiac and all that stuff. So we're kind of in a limbo at that time, and it was weird seeing kind of a 1940s Superman after seeing a modern incarnation in Smallville. Smallville ended up moving from the WB, UPN and the WB merged and became the CW. So you had season 6 with Green Arrow and stuff. That was cool to Phantom. Season 7 was a bit of a dip, but I love him and Lex Luthor's friendship / rivalry come to an ultimate head. Season 8 was a breath of fresh air of the showrunners. They didn't need to bring Lana back. The second half kind of fell how they killed off Jimmy Olsen. You found out he's actually Henry James Olsen instead of James Bartholomew Olsen like in the comics. So that whole thing happened, and I almost quit being a Smallville fan. I was going to sell the DVDs until I saw that bootleg trailer. That's right, before they actually released the trailer clips, they had that leaked trailer, and it was Clark in the black suit, trench coat, silver Superman S. That was awesome. Tom Welling, when he became producer, really took over that show, and the last 2 seasons ended it on a high.
You're here to be a force for good, not for evil.
Every world needs its heroes.
Time to become the Luthor you were destined to be.
I believe in you.
I can be their hero.
And I would have loved to see Tom Welling become Superman on film. That was the end of a journey. Would I have liked a scene with him fully in the suit? No CG, no far away, out of focus shots? Absolutely. But for the ending, it was quite a moment. And he did more than enough for the character of Clark Kent. Smallville helped make Superman still relevant during the downtime. After Smallville, we had Green Lantern. Rumors of a Tom Welling cameo that never came to pass, but we had rumors. And they were going to reboot it with Man of Steel. And initially, I was kind of upset about that. I wanted a Smallville continuation or Brandon Routh. Henry Cavill was in it. I didn't see Henry Cavill in too much stuff, even though I did see him as a kid in Counting Monte Cristo. But people were so hard on him. Physically, he looks like an Alex Ross picture come to life. And it's a travesty how him and Brandon Routh were treated in the long run. But that was such a great time, Man of Steel. Seeing the behind-the-scenes photos. And I wasn't sure what to think about the first trailer. It had the music from Thin Red Line. Wasn't until trailer 3, right before Iron Man 3 came out, that it just blew me away.
But in time, they will join you in the sun. In time, you will help them accomplish wonders.
You believe your son is safe?
I will find him!
My father believed that if the world found out who I really was, they'd reject me. He was convinced that the world wasn't ready. What do you think?
What's the S stand for?
It's not an S. On my world, it means hope.
Well, here it's an S. How about
Excuse me.
Those were great times. I mean, that whole trailer is the reason why I bought the score. I actually bought the soundtrack before the movie came out. I was just in love with it. Saw the movie in 3D, loved it, and it was better in 2D, actually. I ended up seeing that movie a total of 8 times that year. Yeah, that and Dark Knight Rises tie the most times I've seen a movie in theaters was 8 times. And Man of Steel, I was at my college, the University of Texas at Austin. They had this union building, the Union Theater, Student Union Theater. And they would sometimes show at 6 o'clock and 9 o'clock showing. Well, I had the whole afternoon off. I watched that film back to back. Kind of started regretting it halfway through the second viewing because I was like, oh man, I'm feeling really stiff. I've been sitting here a long time. But I got me like one of those big Taco Bell meals. And I was in the sweepstakes to try to win a PS4. That tells you how far back that is, gosh. And it was great. You know, I love that film. I absolutely love that film. I got like the merchandise. I got the t-shirts. I have a hoodie. Yeah, there's an old photo of me in the hoodie. And around that time, too, I was also heavy into my Smallville love, so I cosplayed as Superman from Smallville, the red jacket. And that wasn't bad. There were some funny stories there. I went to some Comic-Cons, met Manu Bennett, met David Yost, Summer Glau. Allison Mack, which was great at the time, but now in retrospect, I'm like, you know what? Hey, Fred, at least you get a picture and autograph from the leader of a sex cult off your bucket list. Thank God I was a guy, not a girl, because who knows what would have happened. She did compliment the jacket, though. She said, nice jacket. Yeah, that is strange, I know. But anyway, there's some funny stories there. I took photos in Austin, like downtown. The police officers like, can I get a photo with Superman and stuff? It's like, where'd you get your jacket? It was kind of a crazy time. It was like, I got a lot of compliments on that jacket. I didn't know it was made out of faux leather, so it started to kind of like decompose over time, which is a bummer. Otherwise, I'd be wearing it. I'm going to try to find a real one, or at least cosplay as like Henry Cavill's Superman. But that was a fun time. I was really into the comics. You had the New 52 era and then the Rebirth stuff later, but you also had animated films like Justice League Doom, Superman, Batman, Public Enemies, All-Star Superman. So many wonderful DC animated universe shows. And then we had Injustice Gods Among Us. And I remember getting that on day one. Got me some Oreos, got me a Dr. Pepper 20-ounce bottle, and just sat down all night and played that.
After I've killed you, I'll bring Lois here. When she sees how I've perfected this world, she'll be afraid and disgusted. She'll be alive! Lois's death doesn't just... He stole her from me! You stole this planet's freedom! It's time to give it back.
But that was a crazy time. And then I got Man of Steel on Blu-ray. Wonderful Blu-ray bonus features. And it's funny because then around that time, I was in a media archaeology class at UT. And we took a trip to the Bob Bullock IMAX theater, and we got to see the projection room. There, the IMAX film was very huge, almost just a round table size, weighed a ton. And I was wearing my Man of Steel hoodie, and the projectionist saw me and says, hey, I have something for you. So I got a chance to have some IMAX film cell from Man of Steel. It was in the first flight sequence. That was pretty cool. And it was quite a time to be not only a DC comic book fan, but Superman fan. Like, Superman was back and bigger than ever. And while nobody's going to really be like Christopher Reeve, Henry Cavill made the character relevant again. And just as iconic for a generation the way Christopher Reeve did for previous generations. It's a travesty what happened in the next couple of films. It's funny because people are like, I want a Man of Steel 2. And I'm like, we have a Man of Steel 2. It's called Batman v Superman Dawn of Justice. And I love that movie. That movie, I remember hearing the news. Ben Affleck was going to be Batman. I was like, wow, they're rebooting it real fast. I probably wouldn't have saw Dark Knight Rises 8 times in theaters if I knew that they were going to reboot Batman so soon. But it was crazy. I loved it because WB was always wanting to get Ben Affleck for the longest time, I remember, since like 2003. So that wasn't any news. Then we have Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman. I was one of the few people that actually liked that choice because I could see she could have the grace of Diana, but the ferocity, the fierceness that goes with the warrior side of her. Jesse Eisenberg, I wasn't so sure of on Lex. He kind of reminded me more of the mad scientist Lex. And then we have the movie. And I actually liked the movie. The theatrical was not bad, but I felt like there was something missing. And I've said this before on the channel, and turns out there was. We get the Ultimate Edition, and that turns it from a Batman movie to a Clark Kent Superman movie where Batman is the villain. And I absolutely love this arc, how they pay homage to Dark Knight Returns of Superman, Death of Superman.
Tell me, do you plead your will? I don't deserve you, Alfred.
No, sir, you don't.
This is how it all caves in.
You know you can't win this. It's suicide.
Stay down! If I wanted it, you'd be dead already.
I've known a few women like you.
Oh, I don't think you've ever known a woman like me.
Also, around that time in 2016, I had the honor of being featured with other fans for fan hosting on El Rey Network for the Labors of Superman Marathon, or Why These Films Matter. That was a pretty cool opportunity. Superman was the golden standard of what can happen when a comic book is turned into film.
Bye.
Let's begin with the superhero that started them all, Superman.
This was the first time we actually saw a man physically fly.
I've got you.
You've got me! Who's got you?
Gene Hackman brought a lot of fun as Lex Luthor.
Wonderful. Couldn't have said it better myself.
It was just a perfect time. It was a bit lighter after the dark era of anti-heroes in the Vietnam War.
All superhero movies that have come out creating an empire owe it all to this film.
This Labor Day weekend, stand for truth, justice, and the American way on L-Rate Network. Then we get to Justice League, or what I like to call as Justice League. That movie disappointed me. I liked it for its Saturday morning cartoon vibe, but deep down I'm like, that did not feel like a Zack Snyder film at all. And half the stuff from the trailer wasn't in the movie. It was kind of a down time for a while. But luckily we had Rays of Light, we had Supergirl, and that was so cool seeing Melissa Benoist as Supergirl. Oh man, just as iconic as Christopher Reeve as Superman, seeing Martian Manhunter. I loved that show when it was on CBS. It started to go downhill really fast on CW, but Tyler Hoechlin was introduced as Superman. Ultimately, I think the writing and budget restrictions hurt that show in the long run. It just was a fall from grace of how it started, you know. But I love that, and then you had Superman and Lois later on. And we had half of a cameo in Shazam, Injustice 2 video game. We get to the Snyder Cut, and that was something that was a big deal. I actually made a drawing for the fan art competition in 2017, and it got blacked out on the WB channel, and I thought my drawing was horrible. But then I saw stuff that looked, it was done by a kindergarten, so I'm like, why is it blacked out? And I realized that I was the only one that submitted art that was the black Superman suit. But in retrospect, it makes so much more sense. And that was something with that announcement on the anniversary of Man of Steel. I was just like, oh my God. I mean, you could see me back then, like I was freaking out. Oh my God, the Snyder Cut is real, everyone. They're going to release the Snyder Cut on HBO Max.
The whole world is mourning, grieving over a symbol.
Let's hope you're not too late.
It's like they were afraid of him. Fly, son. It's time.
I made a promise on his grave.
This world will join the others.
What do we have to lose? No us without him.
We do this together.
Get down! You will help them accomplish wonders.
They wanted me back for a reason. I need to find out why.
Luckily, I not only had a chance to see it early the next year by submitting a story of who my hero is in my family.
My hero of hope is my father. He is a Superman of our family, giving us safety and security, inspiration and hope. He, much like Superman, made something out of his life. He came from a very poor upbringing. Went and served into the Vietnam War, came back and got into a field of education where he's provided students with inspiration and hope. He's not only helped complete strangers, but his own family. And much like the Man of Steel, he shows us what it's like when we're the best versions of ourselves, not only with goals, but also helping others. And during times like this, it's important to help each other out. He later on gave me hope and strength, even during my down times. And he also has strength during his down times when he struggled with cancer. He showed us what it's like to still have hope and inspiration, even during the darkest of times. And he is a true Man of Steel and a Superman to not only myself, but to my family. He is my hero of hope.
I also had the honor of being featured with other fans on IGN FanFest and get my existence acknowledged by Zack Snyder. And it was just so surreal, but also a full circle moment that the question I asked him about was like, are you excited for the black suit?
This question from Frederick Lopez is about your experience getting to see that suit. So let's pull that up.
My question is for Zack Snyder. What was it like seeing Superman in the black and silver suit for the first time? I cannot wait to finally see the Snyder Cut on March 18th.
It was cool. Yeah, I got to admit, even because the first thing we did was a quick test, to make sure that we had all our ducks in a row. And just seeing it, we all just sat back like, wow, are we really doing this? This is amazing. And so yeah, it was really cool.
I don't know, that's just a full circle moment. I got all the McFarlane toys. It was a great time. And I was hopeful for the future. We get to Black Adam, and even though it did feel like a marketing ploy, it was cool to see Henry Cavill back. I love the Donner theme, but I really wish it was a Hans Zimmer theme or a mixture. But still, we're getting Henry Cavill back.
It's been a while since anyone's made the world this nervous.
Black Adam. We should talk.
And then James Gunn and WB Discovery just pulls the rug under our feet and just squanders our dreams. I've been in a depressed state lately. We're going to have Superman Legacy, which I wonder if it's going to be a younger Superman or it's going to be like Jonathan Kent. I wonder if it's going to be like his son from the new comics, hence a Legacy. I don't know. We get Sasha Kaya as Supergirl. Hopefully she continues. She looks great. What they're going to do in The Flash with like a Flashpoint-esque type of film. But for a while I felt depressed. I don't know where the future's going to go. I'm a bit checked out, but you know what the great thing is? There have been many different incarnations of the Man of Steel in the past. There are going to be many more in the future. And even though I wanted Brandon Routh and Henry Cavill to have a better ending, they're just vessels for this character. There are always going to be different incarnations and different influences. So I tell people, those who are like, well, have an open mind about the future, you should have had an open mind with Henry Cavill. Not everybody's going to be Christopher Reeve. Not everybody's going to be Michael Keaton. You know, it's funny because I remember people were saying that, like, hey, there was a Batman before Ben Affleck in 2016 and a Superman before 2013. Well, on that note, there is a Superman after 1978 and there's a Batman that's after 1989. There's always going to be. And that's what makes these characters so great and timeless. They can adapt, they can change over time with the audience, with social economic issues, with the way everything is around the world. These characters are timeless. There are modern myths, there are modern gods. We're always going to have different incarnations. Some better than others, or some that people like, while others may not. There's always going to be an incarnation for whoever you are out there of Superman. And I hope we see Val Zod. I hope we see Clark Kent. I hope we see more. I hope we see Steel again. I hope we see versions of Supergirl, versions of Laura Kent. Who knows what the future's going to hold. Hell, a Krypto the Superdog movie. And like times before, these characters are always going to be everlasting. And Superman is just one of those superb characters. And what I love the most is that he represents what we can be, ideally. If we better ourselves, if we stick up to our values and stuff. We can be the Ubermensch. We all have the power to be our own Supermen and women, you know? And that's something that I just love about this character. Those are just my memories of being a Superman fan. I don't know what the future's in a whole, but I'll always cherish the memories I do have. And let's create some great new ones. Let's treat each other with kindness out there. Feel free to share yours down in the comments below. In the meantime, you can check out these other videos for more content. Until then, stand for truth, justice, the American way, and a better world. Till next time, everyone.